Today was a dark day in the history of the United States Capitol.
If you're a conservative, this is the most offensive concept in the world.
This isn't what America is.
So in July of 2023, Rudy Giuliani steps forward and, well, admits he lied. He acknowledges making false accusations against Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss, two election workers in Georgia. These are the very claims that stirred up so much chaos after the 2020 election.
Wait, he admitted it? Like, he just came out and said it?
Yeah, pretty much. Giuliani filed a late-night court document essentially conceding that his accusations were baseless. Freeman and Moss were never involved in any election fraud. But by then, the damage was, it's done.
And what kind of damage are we talking about here? I mean, I've heard snippets, but it sounds like it was life-altering for them.
Absolutely. For starters, both Freeman and Moss faced harassment, death threats. Shaye Moss even testified during the January 6th hearings that she and her mom had to go into hiding. They changed their appearances just to feel safe. It's devastating.
That's unreal. They're just regular people doing their jobs, and suddenly they're getting threats for it?
Exactly. Ruby Freeman had been with the Fulton County Election Department for years, and when Giuliani and others spread these lies, it ruined their lives. Freeman even had to leave her job because the pressure became too much. Imagine dedicating yourself to civic work, then having to quit because someone decided to spin a convenient and completely false narrative.
It's just disgusting. And he didn't even stop to think about what this would do to them.
Well, it seems like accountability might finally be catching up with him. A federal court awarded Freeman and Moss $148 million in damages last year. That's a staggering figure, but honestly, no amount of money can undo what they've been through.
148 million? That's gotta be one of the highest defamation rulings, right?
It is significant, no doubt. The court basically decided to send a strong message about the consequences of weaponizing misinformation. And, it's not just about money, it's about reinforcing that there are legal consequences for targeting people like this.
Right. But at the same time, it's, like you said, it doesn't erase what Freeman and Moss had to, endure. You can't just bounce back from this kind of thing.
No, you can't. Their personal safety was compromised, their careers uprooted, all on the back of baseless claims. And the ripple effect of Giuliani's actions, well, it extends beyond just them. Speaking of how these actions ripple beyond just individuals, one of the more controversial names tied to the post-election fallout is Ginni Thomas. Ginni isn't just anyone. She's the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, and her name keeps surfacing for her active involvement in efforts to challenge the 2020 election results.
Wait, hold on. The wife of a Supreme Court justice, she's sending emails and actually engaging in this stuff?
Yep. She communicated with lawmakers and even urged Wisconsin legislators to overturn the state's election results. That's right, overturn legitimate election outcomes.
That's just wild. Why would she even risk doing that?
That's where things get murky. Her involvement raises all sorts of ethical questions about conflicts of interest, especially given her husband's position on the Supreme Court. There's a perception, that her actions could undermine trust in the judiciary.
Yeah, I mean, people already question the system enough as it is. But how does her being, so involved in this kind of thing not, throw up massive red flags?
It did. In fact, she was called to testify before the January 6th committee. The committee had evidence, emails, communications with Trump's attorney, John Eastman, that tied her to some of the strategies around contesting the election. And, her testimony only added more fuel to the fire.
Right, because her husband could have been ruling on cases related to this exact stuff, right?
Exactly. That connection between her actions and his role creates what many see as a glaring conflict of interest. It's one thing to have personal political views, but actively influencing efforts to overturn an election while married to a Supreme Court justice, that's a whole different level.
So what exactly did she say when she testified? Did she, admit to crossing the line?
Not quite. She reportedly denied that her actions had any influence on her husband's decisions or that they coordinated in any way. But still, the fact that she was corresponding with key players like Eastman, it raises a lot of questions about how these networks operate behind the scenes.
Man, it's like peeling back layers of an onion. Each layer just gets messier. And it's not just optics. It's about trust. Like, how can people trust the system when you've got stuff like this going on?
That's the heart of it, Scott. Her involvement adds another layer of complexity to an already volatile post-election landscape. Her actions, whether intentional or not, contributed to the erosion of trust in the institutions meant to uphold democracy. And, the January 6th committee tried to shine a light on that, but building on what we just discussed about the influence of key figures and their behind-the-scenes actions, let's shift to Mark Meadows. This guy was Trump's chief of staff, and his text messages have become a kind of Rosetta Stone for understanding what was happening during the lead-up to and on January 6th.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking thousands of texts, right? Like, these messages were basically the playbook for what went down.
Exactly. Over 2,300 texts, to be precise. These aren't just casual exchanges either. They're conversations with top officials and Trump allies, folks like Rudy Giuliani, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and even Sean Hannity. Meadows was right at the center of efforts to challenge the election results in key states.
And it's not just the volume, it's what's in them. Basically mapping out the strategy, right? Like, they're coordinating this stuff in real time while everything is hitting the fan.
Right. For example, you've got representatives texting Meadows to stop the rioters, literally begging for the violence to end. At the same time, others were suggesting ways to shift blame, like pinning it on Antifa or outside agitators. These texts show the chaos and the spin, all unfolding simultaneously.
And the thing is, those attempts to deflect to say it wasn't Trump supporters at the Capitol, that's been completely debunked. Nearly everyone arrested or charged has been tied to pro-Trump movements.
Exactly. But it shows just how quickly some were trying to rewrite the narrative. There was this frantic effort to salvage Trump's image, not to mention their own. And, the texts also connect Meadows to plans to overturn results in states like Georgia and Arizona. These efforts weren't accidental. They were deliberate, coordinated.
Man, it's hard to believe, but at the same time, it kind of makes sense when you look back at how desperate they all seem to cling to power. It's like all the pieces just keep falling into place.
It does. These messages have become key evidence in ongoing investigations. They provide a window into the mindset and mechanics of how far some were willing to go to undermine the electorate. And frankly, it's sobering. It's a reminder of how fragile democracy can be.
Yeah, and how close we came to something way worse. Honestly, the more we learn, the more it just kind of hits you,
It really does, Scott. And that's why talking about this matters. Because understanding how it all unfolded keeps us vigilant. It helps ensure these strategies can't be repeated without accountability.
Absolutely. I mean, if we're not looking at this stuff, if we're not learning from it, then what's even the point?
Exactly. And that's all for today's episode, folks. A big thanks for joining us as we dug into this tangled web of January 6th and the key players involved. Remember, democracy is only as strong as the people who defend it.
Take care out there, and we'll see you next time. Stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll catch you on the next episode.